Well, friction is a useful word tonight because we're going to look at a side of political friction. It's rarely discussed. Nonpartisan politics. Sounds kind of like an oxymoron, but it's not. It's really an art form. The truth is, you don't need to be active in a political party or even belong to one in order to practice politics. But you do walk a fine line. Our guest tonight walks that line daily as a religious leader, but also a civic advocate. AR Bernard is the founder and pastor of the largest evangelical church in New York City, the Christian Cultural Center. It's located in Brooklyn, and it has a little congregation of 37,000 members from across the city and beyond. Reverend Bernard, great to have you back with us here on Huckabee Today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, my friend. And again, thank you for all that you do to represent Christ, to represent the kingdom, and to bring Christ to the culture.
Well, I appreciate that. You live in a city that has just been pretty much rocked and perhaps divided by the trial of a young Marine veteran, Daniel Penny. He was on a subway. A person got on and started threatening to kill people on that subway. Many of them were terrified. Daniel Penny put the person in a chokehold. The individual, unfortunately, died as a result of the chokehold. But rather than be hailed as a hero who saved the lives of innocent people on the subway, the New York prosecutor's office charged him with murder. He was acquitted of that, but he still faces some legal issues. This pitted a lot of people against each other, not just in New York, but across the country. And some said that his actions were racist, even though many of the people that he did, in fact, save that day were people of color. Speak to what that issue has been like in New York, and how do you approach it from a moral perspective? Are we supposed to stand by when someone is potentially attacking innocent people? And does this make it more difficult for people to get involved and to intervene and try to stop an act of violence?
Well, Governor, first let me thank you for going right to it. I mean, this is controversial. And we both know that cases like this tend to set off debate on issues of race, justice, and in this case, the mentally ill. But it went to trial. A verdict of his peers, jury of his peers listened to the evidence and determined that he was not guilty or especially guilty of criminally negligent homicide. That's a very serious charge. But they went through the evidence and they decided that he was not guilty. I don't think that, Daniel Penny woke up that morning and said, you know what, I'm going to find someone, or even an African American, to kill today. I think that, he found himself in a situation. He responded out of his training, which raises another question. So there's the verdict. And I have to say, the verdict went through the system, and respect and honor that verdict, regardless of all of the critics around it. Was it justifiable homicide? How do we take that into consideration? Daniel Penny's training as a Marine, Jordan Neely's mental health issues that are definitely factors of what took place. Unfortunately, Governor, our penal code, doesn't adequately address this type of situation. And it speaks to the deficiencies in our systems and structures that don't help the social problem of mental health. So we've got a long way to go to really think through how we respond to situations like this. And if I may segue, Jesus spoke to both personal and systemic sin. He affirmed the law, he affirmed moral order, but he also challenged the deeper conflicts of values and norms, the inequitable distribution of power, and the selective application of the law. And that places us as Christians in a tension between moral order, a set of, for us as Christians, biblically informed ethical principles, values, and norms that govern, individual behavior and behavior within a society. And on the other side of that, social change, correcting the corruption, hypocrisy, and inequities in our systems and structures because we have broken, wounded human beings who are in positions of power, making decisions, making policy, legislating responses to what happens within our society. So all Christians live in that tension. I live in it. I'm more aware of it. I thrive in it, but and also criticized by both sides. I subscribe to moral order, a biblically informed moral order. I believe that that's important to stability within a society, to the progression of that society out into the future. But I'm also aware that systems and structures are created by fallen human beings, and they need to be reevaluated and their inequities addressed.
I know when I got my first job as a teenager, I didn't get a lot of money. I was paid minimum wage working at a little radio station in Arkansas. I guess I wish they'd have paid me in gold. Had they done that, my goodness, it would have been worth a lot today. Well, nobody necessarily pays wages in gold, but the good news is you can actually own gold for yourself, and it's a good investment. It means that you have a hedge against inflation. It's always worth something, always has been. It's why when I buy gold and silver, I rely on the folks at American Hartford Gold. They're the one and only precious metals company that I can recommend, trust, and buy from. If you call or text, you can get a free no strings attached gold and silver information kit from American Hartford Gold. Learn how to protect your nest egg with a tax-advantaged gold IRA. And you could get up to $15,000 of free silver on qualifying purchases. Call them 844-417-1010 or text Mike to 998899 for a free information kit from American Hartford Gold. Reverend, sometimes we always want to say someone is at fault for everything that happens. Some things don't happen because somebody has intentionally injured another. It's not someone's fault as much as it is the result, really, of a very broken world and broken people living in it. When this case happened, it occurred to me that Daniel Penny had been trained to defend people around him. As a Marine, he was trained how to protect people and how to stop an aggression if necessary. He basically did what our country sent him to school to learn how to do. So he did that. It almost seems that the person who was the attacker on the subway, a person who had been arrested multiple times, but had never been put in an institution, had never been incarcerated to any length of time, he also had some serious mental health issues, as you I think, appropriately mentioned. I wonder maybe if the person who should have been indicted, the person who should have been held responsible, if we feel like we have to hold someone, should have been those people in the system in New York City who never held this individual accountable for his many crimes, for his many actions against others, who never helped him find mental health assistance, and who let him back out on the streets to threaten people. Maybe we arrested the wrong guy. React to that.
Well, I think as a Christian, as a pastor, as a minister, that again, there's the tension between grace and truth. How do we administer grace, which is very necessary, and at the same time continue our loyalty to the truth? The reality is that certain things are done, and we need to respond to them. And it's not a one-size-fits-all answer. We continue to wrestle through many, many contradictions within our society to this day. We're celebrating our 250th anniversary as a nation very shortly. And we're still wrestling through some of the issues that we have had to wrestle through from its inception. There's no one size fits all. But I think that we have to bring the two together, realize that there is that very real tension between moral order, establishing rules and boundaries, and at the same time, recognizing that even as we respond in policy and legislation, our systems and structures are faulty. And we have to continuously reevaluate, review what we're doing, and respond accordingly.